Vice Chair and Commissioners, the meeting is now being live streamed.
Thank you, Secretary. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday, August 19, 2026, 5:15 p.m. regular Planning Commission meeting. The meeting will now come to order. Tonight's invocation will be given by Mr. Hernandez, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Monroy.
Thank you, Chair. God, please provide the Commission with the guidance and wisdom necessary to consider today's items. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez and Vice Chair Monroy. Commissioners, please announce any item you are recusing from due to a conflict of interest prior to the item being heard. Seeing none, Secretary, will you please call the roll of the Planning Commission?
Commissioner Boano,
Present.
Commissioner Preciado,
Present.
Chairperson Barrera,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Monroy.
Present.
Thank you. We will now begin with item number 5.1 on the agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 5:24 p.m. May we have the staff report, please, Mr. Hernandez?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For today's item, our Associate Planner, Jason Garcia, will be delivering the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners and staff. My name is Jason Garcia, the Associate Planner for the Bell Gardens Planning Division. Today's item is an introduction to Zone Code Amendment file number PLN 26-000079. And for the record, I wanted to clarify that on the staff report and the resolution, it had the incorrect file number. It has it as PLN 26-000097. To clarify, it's supposed to be item or file number PLN 26-000079. Staff's recommendation today is to find that the zone code amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15061, subsection B3, the common sense exemption. And number two, adopt resolution number PC 26-09, recommending that the City Council adopt Zone Code Amendment PLN 26-000079. Assembly Bill 2904 became effective in January 1st of 2025 and required local governments to increase the noticing period from a minimum of 10 to 20 days for Planning Commission public hearing items pertaining to zoning ordinances that affect permitted uses on real property. On March 10, 2025, City Council approved ordinance number 955, which modified the Bell Gardens Municipal Code section 9.54.010 and increased public noticing periods for zone changes, variances, and CUPs from 10 days to 20 days. Ordinance number 955 complied with state law noticing requirements, but inadvertently increased noticing requirements for variances and CUPs, which were more strict than the state law. In addition, it did not codify requirements for all applicable planning applications. Specifically, it did not list noticing requirements for site plan review type 3, general plan amendments, specific plans, or amendments to specific plans, tentative parcel or tract maps, or development agreements. The proposed changes to Chapter 9.54, Public Noticing Requirements and Procedures, includes new sections and updates to provide further clarification for public noticing requirements. Section 9.54.010 shall be retitled and amended to read as follows. 9.54.010 Notice for Public Hearings. Unless otherwise noted, for public hearings for the legislative and quasi-judicial acts listed in Table 9.54A and Table 9.54B below, respectively, the Commission shall give notice, which shall include the time, place, and purpose of such hearings, the general location of the property under consideration, and such other information as it deems necessary as provided therein. Sections 9.54, .020, .030, and .040 will have no alterations to their content, but shall be renumbered to make room for 2 new sections. The Zone Code Amendment proposes a new section 9.54.020, which shall be titled Legislative Acts that Require a Public Hearing. This section will include Table 9.54A, Legislative Acts that Require a Public Hearing. The items listed on this table will require a minimum 20-day public hearing notice unless otherwise specified by state law. The table 9.54A, Legislative Acts that Require Hearing, has 4 columns. The 4 columns include legislative acts such as general plan, specific plan, zone change, development agreements, zone text amendments. And the column to the right is the approval mechanism, either a resolution or an ordinance, and the approving authority, city council, and appeal authority, not applicable. The code amendments will also propose a new section 9.54.030, which shall be titled Quasi-Judicial Acts that Require a Public Hearing. This section will include Table 9.54B, Quasi-Judicial Acts that require a public hearing. The items listed in the table will require a minimum 10-day public hearing notice, unless otherwise specified by state law. The table 9.54B, Quasi-Judicial Acts that require a hearing, includes quasi-judicial acts such as tentative parcel maps, tentative tract maps, conditional use permits, variances, and site plan review type 3s, and including reversions to acreage. It includes the approval mechanism of resolution, the approving authority of either the Planning Commission or the City Council, and the appeal authority of the item or the act to the City Council where applicable. Any amendments to or revocations of any of the acts, either in Table 9.54A or 9.54B, will have the same approval mechanism, approval authority, and appeal authority as the original action. Staff recommends to find that the Zone Code Amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to Section 15061B3, or otherwise known as the Common Sense Exemption. And 2, adopt Resolution PC 2026-09, recommending to the City Council adopt Zone Code Amendment PLN 26-000079. This concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff? Okay, I have one question. So in theory, was this made to it's gonna basically make the process longer for applicants, correct?
The purpose of the zone code amendment is to clarify within our municipal code the specific minimum requirements for public hearing notices. So currently, the public hearing notices for a conditional use permit or a variance or other items have been a 20-day public hearing notice. Some items are going to be brought back to what the state law has at the minimum of 10 days. Other items are going to be brought to compliance up to the 20-day minimum public hearing notice requirement.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments for staff? All right, thank you. We want to open public participation for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 5.1. Please state your name for the record before addressing the members of the Planning Commission. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chamber. If you haven't done so already, please submit all comment cards now. There are no public comment cards provided, no written comments, and no virtual hands are raised.
Thank you, Secretary. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. And if there are no additional questions or comments by the Planning Commission, I will close the public hearing at 5:34 p.m. May I have a motion to move forward with staff's recommendation with the correction that it reflects PLN 26-000079. I'll go ahead and I'll first the motion to move forward with staff's recommendation.
May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Planning Secretary, will you please conduct the roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado?
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado?
Yes.
Chairperson Barrera?
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Monroy?
Yes.
Thank you. We will now begin with item number 5.2 on the agenda. At this time, I will open the public hearing at 5:35 p.m. May we have the staff report, please, Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Chair. For this item, our Associate Planner, Adrian Andujo, will be delivering that presentation.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners, staff, and members of the public. The item brought before you today is variance number VR 25-00002 for the property located at 5801 Agra Street. The applicant is requesting several deviations from the R2 development standards to facilitate the future subdivision of the existing property into 2 residential parcels. It is staff's recommendation that the Planning Commission, adopt the resolution number PC 2026-10 denying variance number VR 25-000002 based on the determination that the required findings for sorry about that. Determine that the required findings for approval pursuant to the Bell Gardens Municipal Code, Section 9.50.060 cannot be made. And 2, find that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to guideline sections 15061 B3 and 15270A, which is projects which are disapproved. The property is located at 5801 Agra Street at the northeast corner of Agra Street and Ajax Avenue. The site is zoned R2, medium density residential with a medium density residential general plan designation. The property is 6,952 square feet and is currently developed with 2 existing single-family residents and associated accessory structures. The property is currently 1 legal parcel containing 2 existing single-family residents. The site also contains a detached 2-car garage, an attached 1-car garage, covered porches, patios, and an accessory storage shed. Each residence currently has an independent driveway access from the surrounding public streets. No new residential construction is proposed as part of this variance application. So the applicant is requesting relief from the following development standards: minimum lot area, minimum lot depth, interior side setbacks, rear setbacks, and parking. For the record, I'd like to make one correction to the staff report and the summary table for parcel A. The minimum lot width for parcel A should be 50 instead of a 37.97 and is an existing non-conforming standard. So the purpose of the variance is to facilitate a future subdivision of the existing parcel into 2 separate residential parcels. Parcel A would be 3,789 square feet, and parcel B would be 3,163 square feet. The intent is for each existing residence to be located on its own parcel and potentially be separately owned. A tentative parcel map has not yet been submitted. The variance would only provide relief from the development standards and would not itself approve the future subdivision. So the first requested deviation is for a minimum lot area for future proposed parcel A. Because parcel A is a corner lot, the R2 zone requires a minimum lot area of 6,000 square feet. The future proposed parcel A would contain 3,789 square feet. This represents a reduction of 2,211 square feet from the required minimum. For future proposed parcel B, the R2 zone requires minimum lot area of 5,000 square feet for an interior lot. Parcel B would contain 3,163 square feet. This represents a reduction of 1,838 square feet from the required minimum. Therefore, both proposed parcels would be below the applicable minimum lot area requirements. Moving on to minimum lot depth. So the R2 zone requires a minimum lot depth of 100 feet. So parcel A would have a depth of 76.75 feet, resulting in a deficiency of 23.25 feet. Parcel B would have a depth of 50 feet, resulting in a deficiency of 50 feet. Therefore, both parcels would be below the minimum lot depth requirement. There are also 2 setback deviations associated with parcel B. The required front setback is 20 feet. The existing attached front porch is 7 feet 9 inches from the front property line. So essentially, the future proposed subdivision would also establish a new rear lot line for parcel B. This would result in a 0-foot setback for the existing garage, where the 5-foot setback would otherwise be required. The proposed subdivision would establish a new rear property line for parcel B, resulting in a 0-foot rear setback for the existing garage. The required rear yard setback is 5 feet. This would result in the 5-foot deviation. The final requested deviation is parking. So each parcel would contain one single family residence and is therefore required to provide 2 parking spaces. Parcel A would provide 1 parking space, resulting in a deficiency of 1 parking space. And parcel B provides 2 parking spaces with a 2-car garage, so that would comply with the parking requirement. The findings, so for variance findings, the finding can be made because for finding D, my apologies, is our affirmative. So this variance does not authorize a use that is prohibited in the R2. So the proposed use is permitted in R2 and the variance is only requesting relief from this one. So this is our finding D is the finding that can be made. So however, staff cannot make findings for A, B, C, and E. So for finding A, the existing property can continue to be reasonably used for residential purposes without the variance. For finding B, the property does not have a unique physical characteristics that would prevent compliance with the R2 standards. For finding C, approval would allow multiple deviations and create 2 substandard parcels without a demonstrated unique hardship. And for finding E, the identified difficulties are primarily the result of the future proposed subdivision rather than a hardship inherited of the property. So overall, the existing property is legal residential parcel that can continue to be used for residential purposes without the requested variance. The requested relief is primarily necessary because of the applicant's desire to divide the existing parcel into 2 smaller parcels. The future proposed subdivision would create multiple deficiencies related to, as we mentioned, lot area, lot depth, setbacks, and parking. The requested deviations are driven by the proposed development, not the existing site conditions. So although staff recommends denial, the Planning Commission may approve the variance if all required findings can be made. The applicant's request is intended to facilitate separate ownership of the existing residence with no new construction proposed. Again, the project is exempt from CEQA under 15061B3. So the requested variance involves development standards associated with the existing site and no new construction proposal. Okay. So staff has reviewed the variance application, applicant's justification letter, site conditions, and all applicable Bell Gardens municipal code provisions, and finds that the required findings for approval cannot be made under section 9.50.060 of the Bell Gardens Municipal Code. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number PC 2026-10, denying variance number VR 25-000002, because the required findings under the Bell Gardens Municipal Code cannot be made. And 2, the project is exempt from CEQA. So that concludes staff's presentation. Thank you. Staff's available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Andujo. Are the applicants here today?
Yes, yeah,
Yes.
the applicant's here.
At this time, if the applicant would like to come to the podium to address the Planning Commission, they may do so.
allowed already, so good. My name is Yahia. My record of address is 10841 Paramount Boulevard, City of Downey, 90241. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Planning Commission. Staff did a great job there. I know they couldn't recommend an approval, but that's their job. They're reading the code and they're going off what they have. Fortunately, I've had the honor to work with a bunch of these guys before in different cities, and Alfonso as well. So yeah, my background is in planning and in real estate. I do have my real estate license. I conduct sales and property management, a lot of them in the city of Bell Gardens. Before that, I was a city planner at the city of Norwalk. And so I jumped over on this side now. I'm helping owners, apply for variances and lot splits. One of my first projects was actually in the city of Bell Gardens, 5604 Clara. We took that lot and we split it into 7 individual lots and we sold them off. We built them and sold them off to homeowners. So yeah, I'd like to just drive right into it. I have a presentation. I don't know if they were able to get it up to keep me on track. Okay. So there's a couple things I want to mention that are going to be kind of the theme throughout this presentation. The first one is the Bell Garden housing element of 2021 that was updated. That specifically promotes home ownership and new housing in the city, right? So that's something that's a theme that's throughout this presentation. The other thing is I want to mention that the home ownership is not just for one person or 2 people are going to buy the house, which is compared to the surrounding cities is a lot lower. So I think with the housing element, one of the key things of the housing element update is to promote home ownership. And I know there's a quota that the city has to meet, and I'm not sure what that number is, probably in the thousands for the city, but there's a demand from the state to provide more home ownership, not just housing, right? So why this makes sense? I'm not asking. I know they mentioned that there's constraints, but those constraints are not necessarily from the slot split. Those constraints are already existing. So the property already only has one of them already has 1 garage. The setbacks are already where they're at. The buildings are not going to move. So the buildings aren't going to the buildings aren't creating the buildings aren't creating the issues of the setbacks. The setbacks issues are already there. So it's not like we're going to be able to correct any issues by denying this approval, but by denying this request. If you deny this request, the setbacks, the buildings, the condition, everything's going to stay the same. The only difference is you're going to have one person owning those 2 properties, and most likely it's going to be an investor or somebody who's buying it for other purposes, not just to live in the property. So there are smaller parcels that do exist nearby. We'll get into that, and so it does fit the neighborhood pattern. Okay. So there were the findings that we're trying to make here. Findings 1 and 2 have to do with substantial property right. So the substantial property right just means what we're trying to do is make sure that we're creating separate home ownership as a meaningful opportunity and not trying to create more density. So the other thing is the substantial property right. We're considering not just the property itself, but we're considering the location and its surroundings. The 2 home configuration, it already exists. We're not asking for it to be a new development. This is something that exists and we're trying to match what's existing. So if you go and you drive by and you look at it, it looks like 2 separate homes, but the problem is it's not. It's a duplex. It's two houses. What we're trying to do is we're trying to match what's existing, right? So you drive by, you look, and oh, it's 2 separate addresses, 2 separate meters, 2 separate driveways. So we're trying to match what's existing there already. The special circumstances, like I said, there are other lots nearby that have smaller lot sizes, shorter setbacks, and I do have a list of those properties. 5800 Agra, 6312 Ajax, 5801 Lanto, 6216 Ajax, 5878 Watcher, and 6213 El Celinda. Those are just properties that I took that were in the 1 block radius of our property. So the property right next door to ours, same thing, has a lot that's about 3,000 feet and the other one's about 2,000 feet. There's, I think on every other corner on that block, it's the same thing. They're split. They have a 3,000-foot lot and a 2,000-foot lot, much smaller than what I'm proposing here. So that was a special privilege. Okay, and then this practical difficulty, that kind of goes back to if you deny it, what are we doing? If we approve it, what are we getting, right? So if you deny it, nothing changes. The buildings stay the same the way they are. The owner stays the same. The home ownership doesn't increase, and the building setbacks don't change. They are where they are, right? The front setback don't change, and the side setbacks don't change. The only setbacks that are really in question are the rear setbacks and the depth of the property because you're shortening it up. So the practical difficulty in this case would be creating a difficulty for homeowners at entry level to be able to get into a property like this. Entry level for a duplex in Bell is probably around 800,000. You need close to 100,000 down to put that and to buy it and live in it and still have a $5,000 or $6,000 mortgage payment. So most people that are buying in the city of Bell Gardens, if they can, the single family homes are, 700, 800,000, they're a little more attainable. Properties like this are going to be even more attainable because of the small lot size, because of the setbacks. They go for around 600,000. They also have, instead of when you're buying a duplex, the loan programs are a lot more limited than if you're buying a single family home. Single family homes, buyers are able to come in with 0% down. If it's a duplex, they don't have that option, right? So there's a lot of incentives for homeowners to come in and buy when there's a single family home instead of a duplex. I know a duplex sounds like a great investment. You can live in one and rent out the other. But for people, the working class, working on a minimum wage, it's just not that attainable to them, right? And I know Bell Gardens already has a rent crisis here. I know that's why the rent stabilization ordinance was adopted. But at the same time, we want to create home ownership. We want to promote that. And I think this type of project, I know it's just one, it's not going to set a precedent for anyone else that wants to do it, right? But it is in line with what the city's housing element is that was adopted in 2021. And it is in line with what the state's trying to promote. This doesn't meet any of the SB 9 laws or any of the new state laws that are coming out because of the zoning. It's an R2, right? So if it was an R1, it would be adopted. It would be able to be adopted by a state law, and it's kind of just gets pushed right through. So the state is promoting it, and I feel like I'm just trying to help and come in and promote that same type of housing, home ownership. Okay, and then I just want to close out with one question. I talked about the vision, but the question here I want to leave you guys with is, do you want to prevent or do you want to create more home ownership in the city, more home ownership opportunities in the city? Because if you deny it, what you're saying is you don't want more homeowners. You want to keep it as an investment property. You want investors to come and stay in the city. But I'm presenting you here with an opportunity. It doesn't require any type of development. Doesn't require any type of big money spending. Doesn't require any construction. None of the neighbors are going to be nobody's even going to know what's happening. The only thing is you're just going to be able to see more home ownership in that community and more people living there, more people caring about where they're at, right? So I feel like the staff did a great job. They can only work with what they have, and what they have right now is, I feel, is an outdated code, right? It was adopted in 2025. The housing element doesn't allow them to change the development standards, but I think you guys are working on a new general plan, and I think at that time, if they want to, they're able to change the development standards. I don't know what the development standards are going to look like, but the point is, the staff, they can only work with what they have, and I think that's why they're recommending denial, because it's based on something that was adopted in 2025 when we weren't promoting home ownership as much as we're promoting it today. So yeah, that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
Thank you. First of all, thank you to staff for the report. And I thank you, Mr. Espa, for showing up to the meeting. Now I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for commissioner comments or questions. First, I'll go ahead and start it off. Currently, the two properties on the lot, do they have their own, each of them, do they have a separate address or do they share the same?
They have separate addresses. One of them's on Ajax and one of them's on Agra.
Okay. That's interesting. So then, when it comes to, I guess this is for staff, when it comes to the minimum, the lot area and the depth, is there any way for it, if an applicant doesn't meet that, the same way that we kind of do with other applicants about parking, is there any way to go around that?
The only mechanism that we have in the code would be the variance.
So basically for that to happen, we would have to basically deny staff's recommendation.
So in order for us to deviate from the lot depth or the lot width, an applicant would have to apply for a variance, essentially deviating from what the code is. So just using the one for depth, the requirement is 100, but they're proposing, let's say, roughly 70 for one of the sites. They would have to apply for the variance, and then staff would analyze the findings that we have that are listed in the staff report, and those findings would have to be made in a positive affirmative manner. So essentially, with the yes statement, the planning commission could look at those findings, and if they analyze it and believe that they can be made, then yes, you can approve that variance and that deviation.
Oh, okay, but that would be separate from what would.
So staff, when we did our analysis, we believe that we couldn't make those findings through this process, through your deliberation and all the testimony you've heard, which includes the staff report, which includes the presentations, which includes the applicant's presentation. You could give staff some direction and give us the instructions based off of your findings that you've made, and staff could bring back a resolution to approve a project, the deviations.
Okay. But that would require, like you said, variations, right? That's what it would require.
The application is a variance on, so the reso that we currently have is a reso to deny the project. You'd more than likely, what I would recommend is that you continue the project and give direction to come back with the resolution to approve the project. But you could do that at today's meeting. But just wanted to stress that that direction and that instruction would have to come with the findings being made by the planning commission. And I believe the city attorney may want to add to that.
So just going off the point, Alfonso, so if you want to just reference the negative findings, 1, 2, and 3, and they would have to deliberate on those to find positive findings. So we'll go one by one and they can deliberate on them.
Of course, thank you for that. If it is the pleasure of the planning commission, we can go through the findings in question. Yeah, okay, we can do that. So staff, again, there's 5 findings. Staff was able to make one of the findings, right? It is, unfortunately, I don't have pages here. So the top of your page would start off with findings required under BGMC.
I believe it starts on page 7 for the staff report.
And then the top heading for the ones that we could make, the heading is affirmative finding. Thank you, Manny. I believe we're all there. So affirmative finding, affirmative meaning in the positive that we can make that finding. And that finding reads that the variance shall not be granted for a parcel or property that authorizes a use or activity which is not otherwise expressly authorized by the zone regulation governing the parcel of property. So essentially what the finding is saying is, are we allowing a use that's not allowed in the zone? The use is allowed in the zone, so we were able to make that finding. So negative findings, the first one that was not able to be made is that the variance is necessary for the preservation of a substantial property right of the owners, and that such variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare nor the property of other persons located in the vicinity thereof. And staff, through the finding that's written here, was unable to make that finding. The next one is finding B, that there is a special there are special circumstances applicable to the property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings in which the strict application of this title deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the vicinity and under identical zoning classifications. And once again, per the findings that we listed, we were unable to make that one. That the next one is C, that the variance shall not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and zone in which such property is located. And then the last finding that we were unable to make is that there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in the way of carrying out the strict letter of this title, and in granting such variance, the spirit of this title will be observed, public safety will be secured, and substantial justice will be done. So in the zoning code, it says that all of these findings need to be made. So if the planning commission were unable to make at least one of them, then it would warrant denial of the project.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Would anybody else like to chime in to the findings?
I did want to know if the staff can corroborate the addresses mentioned by the applicant today in terms of how they're similar in, like they've kind of been given the green light, I'm assuming. And I just wanted to know if what the applicant claimed today is in fact true. Have these sites been previously allowed? And if so, why is that?
I want to make a statement. The address says, I don't know how they ended up this way. The lots are what they are. I can't confirm if I think staff looked into it to see how they were approved, and they didn't have any record of how those lots were approved. But those are the lots that I mentioned here. They're on the radius map.
If I may, I think staff's trying to find some information, but what I can share that I do know now is that the lot is legal, and that we looked into permit records, and the units are also legal, which is fairly consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. There's a lot of multifamily and double units on properties. Yeah. And then we can double check on the addresses.
Can we clarify on which addresses we're kind of specifically asking for?
I have them here, right? 5800 Agra, which is directly adjacent to this property.
Okay.
And then 6312 Ajax, which I think is the one right after it. Block right after it.
And
Okay.
if I could point out one more comment on, I think that there was a comment made as to how that happened. Those were recorded prior to the city being established. So during LA County times, and when they had them, that's when the lot was established.
Yeah, I'd like to add too. So yeah, I do have the addresses pulled up here. So staff did do an analysis of the neighborhood. And it does seem that there are what seems to be lots that are subdivided. So from my understanding is that those were done prior to the Subdivision Map Act, and those were done for tax purposes. If anyone wants to make a correction on that.
If I could just add.
Yeah.
So now there's mention of some lots that are smaller within the neighborhood. Those are also legal property parcels as well. We did look into that.
We did, yeah.
And they were created prior to, again, the city being established, and prior to the city's rules that you have now.
Yeah.
Answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you all.
And I just wanted to add to that. So there's a lot of duplex in Bell Gardens because I own one.
Oh, yeah.
So they're old. Basically, to staff's point, right? There's a lot of these properties wouldn't meet code today, to be honest with you. And then the lot you're presenting is kind of special because it's right in the corner. You have Ajax, and then you also have Agra, And other properties are just in one street where you can't do that, even though they have separate addresses, which is almost impossible to do because you're sharing one driveway.
I
So that's a
agree.
big difference
Yeah.
with that. So president speak in the sense that it was done prior to the city, obviously, because my property is like from the 1950s, 40s, right? But I'm thinking about president moving forward. If you approve this, then well, it's going to cause the chain reaction too.
Yeah, have we looked into something like this before? Have we ever had like a situation like this come up to us? Not that I could recall.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So part of what we wanted to do with our analysis is, has the planning commission, since the inception of the city, approved a variance like this before? As the applicant mentioned, there are other properties in the neighborhood that seem identical, where there's small lots on corners. On what we found is that every single one of them was established before the city, right? Before the county had specific requirements like we do. So we did not find one time where the city did that. But again, to the applicant's point, in fairness, these property conditions do exist. But has a planning commission approved a variance like this? No, we haven't, that we could find.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Does anybody else have any questions, any comments?
To the applicant's point, it seems like the city is working on a plan, so I'm assuming updating it, which would then trickle down to perhaps possibly like providing a green light in the future to this proposed project, or I'm sorry, development. Would that be sort of, for lack of a better word, like the easy way, right, which is kind of just like wait it out until that plan is set forth and hopefully that is in place? Or what are the proactive um solutions my fellow commissioners are, crafting up, thinking of? Because it's kind of a wait and see seems to be something that was very subtly proposed by the applicant, if I'm not mistaken. But I also wouldn't want that to be the answer to it if there are other possibilities to move forward.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if they are working on it. I just know because it's coming due that they probably are preparing for a general plan update or but I don't know exactly if they are. And if they probably are, they take lots of time and going back and forth with the state. But I'm sorry if I spoke out of turn and you guys correct me. I'm not sure where they're at with their updating of the general plan and the development standards.
If the commission would like, I could probably expand a bit more on that. So we have a general plan and we have a zoning code. The general plan was last updated for our land use in 1995. So it is about 10 years overdue, and the city is working on an update. But the general plan doesn't have specific policies on what we do. So we implement those policies in our zoning code. So our zoning code is what you follow in terms of physical requirements. On the zoning code, I believe, was in 08 last updated, right? And we are working on multifamily standards but at this point they're just draft. There is time for public comment. I think the only recourse that the applicant has is that he deliver public comment and ask that be put in consideration for that item. And I think for that item, that might be the extent that I could share, because eventually it will come to you as a commission. We will come to you before you vote on it too. So if you have any ideas aside from this, that'd be the appropriate time to kind of chime in on those specific requirements for that project.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. And I'd like to point out, as Commissioner Boado did mention, I think we have to be careful with the precedent that we set with this. So before we vote, let's just make sure that we know if we want to, where we stand with it. Do we want to approve it, or do we want to deny it? And are there any other questions or comments?
Can I make one more statement before you guys vote?
Yeah, go ahead.
The variance process, as staff has mentioned, this is just to see if I can apply for the subdivision based on the standards, the relief of the standards that I'm asking. So this is just like a very, very baby step to what I'm trying to do, and it'll come to you guys again. And this variance is the process that the city and other cities put in place to be able to deviate and allow this to actually happen, right? So if you do approve it, you're exercising the way I see it, the way that you come in and make changes and modifications as you guys see fit to the changes that are happening in front of us. So that's what I want to say before you guys vote.
All right, thank you. I think this is important. Are we sure we don't have any other comments, no questions for the applicants, for staff?
Yeah, I just want to confirm if this were to be, if we move this forward as yes, in unison, that wouldn't change the day-to-day functionality of the site at the moment, would it? Or if it would, what would be some of those like nuances now?
The applicant's proposal on, I'm not sure what they would decide to do in the future, right? They a year from now, 2 years from now, they could always decide to demo those properties, build something else. But what they've shared is that the property is going to remain exactly the same. They're just gonna essentially put a new line, imaginary line, and be able to sell the other property, or be able to sell both those units.
Thank you.
Chair, this is Lloyd. May I add something on that point?
Yeah, Lloyd, go ahead.
So normally, an entitlement like a variance would run with the land and it would exist forever. So if the homes were demolished, then a new building could use the setbacks or whatever the variance was that that was approved. But you could put a condition on the variance that something like it is only for as long as the existing buildings exist. You could put some type of a limit on it so that if the buildings are demolished, the variance would disappear. It's a possible condition.
All right, thank you, Lloyd. Are we interested in that? If anybody wants to, if we want to go ahead and move forward with the variances, then we will limit it only to the existing buildings.
If I may, commission and share. So currently at the stage of the planning commission meeting right now, we're at questions. I think that might be better reserved for deliberation when you close the public hearing. Also after hearing testimony from public comments, because we haven't reached that yet either.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind repeating, I read it, but I'm reading it right now, but if you mind repeating the interior side setback and the rear setback as well? I'm talking for emergency reasons and
You said interior?
the interior and the rear,
And
like the space, right?
yes.
In case anybody has to go through the side or through the back.
So for interior, for parcel B, it would be for the garage, which would be rear and side, it's gonna be 5 feet. Yeah. That's the requirement. Currently, it's at 0.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I see no more questions or comments from the planning commission. I want to open public participation for this item. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on public hearing item number 5.2. Please state your name for the record before addressing the members of the planning commission. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will now begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chamber. If you haven't done so already, please submit all comment cards now. There are no public comment cards provided, and no virtual hands are raised.
Thank you, Ms. Secretary. If there are no objections by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation. And is this where we would have any additional before I close?
Keep deliberating.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we could continue deliberating whether we want to move forward. Or if we want to add the that piece that Lloyd mentioned. What was it?
So just to be clear, staff's recommendation is
Mhm.
a denial of the variance. If you reject staff's recommendation, you'll bring forth a new motion to send it back to staff to make affirmative findings, and then you can also add in any conditions.
Okay. All right, are there any additional questions or comments? If there are no additional questions or comments by the Planning Commission, I will close the public hearing at 6:19 PM. May I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation as noted in the staff report?
Okay, if we could have 1 second.
Yes. Okay. For clarity, are there any substitute motions?
Would it be possible to discuss what kind of language we'd like to be included in the, not in the variance, because I know it's already in place, but rather sort of like you mentioned, new conditions? I just want to know what my fellow commissioners have to say about what added language to, to see in this, if we do want to move forward.
Yes, that would take place now before the second.
And
I guess we could all discuss that, right?
Okay, so then this would be the discussion regarding the alternative motion, correct?
Recommendation.
I'd like to share
Okay.
that the reason why we ask for sub motions is if you made a motion and it didn't pass, then the meeting would stop and then we'd have to come back the next meeting. So that's why we asked. If there is no other sub motion, then great, we can move forward with the one that was already made. But I just wanted to give the Planning Commission that opportunity before the meeting just stopped.
Thank you.
I guess more so, I just wanted to see what the commission has to say in terms of what Lloyd has suggested just now about the added language, and that's something they'd like to see that included. What are their ideas on this? I really do. I just want to know what's going on.
So basically, want to hear my thoughts. Basically, what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of going with the staff recommendation, actually, based on what they listed so far, right? So that's what I'm thinking.
I think it's important to look at the historical context around why this has already been happening in the past. And also, again, thinking about the precedent that this could set in motion. So I just think, before we vote, it's important to just look at those things. So I'm also going to be moving with the staff's recommendation.
If we were to, for some reason, approve this variance, would it be isolated to this specific case or would it roll downhill?
What you would be making findings to the project based off of the circumstances we have here. I would imagine that those circumstances would translate to any similar property. So anything that's a corner lot, a similar size, And if we can make those findings here for this type of property, I would imagine that it would set a precedent for all the other properties as well.
Thank you.
Again, so I would just like for everybody to just think about if we don't want to kind of set that chain in motion regarding future projects that might come before us. And just because we approve one means that now we have to look at all the others and have to approve them, not going based off what we have already set into the city's code. So with that, are there any sub motions that we would like to make? I see none. I think I'm gonna move forward. So may I have a motion to approve staff's recommendation as noted in the staff report?
I motion to approve staff recommendation.
May I have a second?
I second that.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just want to clarify that this would include the clerical revision that staff noted that the minimum lot width reflect 50 feet rather than 37.97 feet in the staff report and resolution.
Thank you. Do we have to redo the motion? or- Oh, okay. Can I have the motion again with the correction? Please?
So I motion to make staff recommendation with the added 36.7 or
The clerical revision of 50 feet rather.
50 feet, not 36.
Then may I have a second?
I second that as well.
Thank you. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct a roll call vote?
Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Monroy.
Yes.
Thank you. Public participation is now open for items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce the instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chamber. If you haven't done so already, please submit all comment cards now.
Annalie, the
Go ahead.
the applicant has requested if he can make comments again.
It is open to public comment. He's part of the public. He could provide public comment.
I know you guys mentioned a couple things, and I want to kind of like see if I can kind of just get your guys' brain thinking about a few things. I know one of the big things you guys keep mentioning is like the precedent. This specific variance is specific to this project on this site, and if anyone else wanted to do the same thing, they'd have to come through the same process and have to have the same, physical characteristics of the property. The reason why this works so well is because the houses are separate. You said you had a duplex. Usually duplexes mean that the two buildings are attached. Is that correct?
That's correct. So
So
I
but
get that.
you couldn't never do a lot split there because those two buildings are attached.
And that's why I
So-
mentioned it's a corner lot, obviously.
Yeah.
If I'm, for example, if I'm the owner of the property, I'll do that because I'll make more money. I
Yeah.
can sell it into
But
two properties
even-
instead of one.
Even if you're
Yeah.
a corner property and you have two buildings attached, you couldn't split the lot because you'd have to split between the two buildings. So this is a very specific case, and it's not like you can just easily come and say, oh, now everyone that else that has a corner lot is gonna come and split their corner lot. This is specific because the buildings are already separated. If the buildings are attached, you're not allowed to create a new property.
Sorry, my property's detached, but there's a
Well,
lot of,
attached.
there's a lot of detached properties
Yeah,
where I
no,
live.
I agree.
A
We
lot of
agree.
them.
And if anyone has the same idea that we have or the same drive to create homeownership, then they can come and they can apply for it and do it. But it doesn't necessarily create a precedent, right? So The physical characteristics would have to match, the houses would have to look like houses, like it would have to actually go with what's going on, right? I know a couple other things you guys are worried about, like setback and you said fire access and things like that. None of that changes if you guys deny the project. The fire access is still the same, the setbacks are still the same, the property physical characteristics are still the same. So whatever you're worried about, you're actually engraving those characteristics even more. This way, we at least have some separation, and that way, if we want to build a property line in between, you can build a fence, and then you've got the home ownership there. So I think that's key here. Like I said, that goes with the housing element. That goes with the city's vision. So if you guys are really trying to increase home ownership, this is the way to start it, right? I know people that are building 48 townhomes in Bell Gardens. Those are not going to be for the people that I'm trying to advocate here for, that are trying to sell these houses to, right? So I'm working for a different type of person for the city of Bell Gardens. The people that aren't buying the new construction homes, they're going to buy what they can afford, right? And I think these properties are going to be a lot more affordable for the common Bell Gardens citizen. All right, thank you.
Thank you. If there's no objection from the planning commission, I will close public participation for agenda items. We will now move to the consent calendar. May I have a motion to approve item number 7.1 on the consent calendar?
Chair, before the motion is made, if I could just read into the record what wasn't on the record at the last meeting, on which would be reflected on the minutes you have. So it was erroneously stated that the motion to approve failed. However, the motion did pass by a sufficient number of votes. For this, I'm particularly talking about on item 5.1 of last meetings. It was a consideration for adoption of a resolution approving a site plan number for 20 units. The motion was carried with a 2-1-1 with 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Would anyone like to make the motion? I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve item number 7.1 on the consent calendar. May I have a second?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Planning Secretary, will you please conduct the roll call vote?
Yes, Commissioner Boado,
Yes.
Commissioner Preciado,
Yes.
Chairperson Barrera,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Monroy.
Yes.
Thank you, Secretary. Public participation is now open for items not listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Secretary, please announce instructions for public participation.
The members of the public will now have an opportunity to speak on items listed on the Planning Commission agenda. Please state your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Callers wishing to speak may do so at this time by dialing *9 from your phone. When instructed, dial *6 to unmute yourself. Individuals joining us through the Zoom app may request to speak by using the raise hand feature on Zoom and select the unmute or the microphone icon when instructed. We will begin to hear from the members of the public that are physically present in the council chamber. If you haven't done so already, please submit all comment cards now. Let me check the room. Chairperson, there are no public comment cards provided, no written comments, and no virtual hands are raised.
Thank you, Secretary. If there is no objection by the Planning Commission, I will close public participation for non-agenda items. Now we can move on to staff comments.
Thank you, Chair. I did want to announce to the commission that we have a new commissioner appointment. Her name is Stephanie Ramos, and she'll be joining us at our next meeting. Then also on the temporary basis, Guillermo Arreola will be acting as city planner, helping us out in the short term. Thank you. That ends my comments.
Are there any other staff comments?
No additional staff comments.
Thank you, Mr. Andujo. Now moving on to commissioner comments. So to start off, welcome, Mr. Arreola. Welcome to the city of Bell Gardens, and thank you to staff and for the applicants that came today. Hopefully, we could come to an agreement sometime in the future where it works for both sides. But hopefully, we could also have a great conversation after as to why we decided to go the way that that we voted. Any other commissioner comments? See none, if there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn. Actually, before I adjourn, I do have one more thing. We usually approve or deny a lot of things here at the planning commission. So I was wondering, is there any way that we could get updates regarding some of those items? Maybe I know that in the past we have approved cannabis shops, right? To know what the status is of those. I believe a couple of meetings ago, we went over the TOC, that was kind of also left. I'm not sure where we are with that now. So if we could just, if it's possible, to have some kind of update regarding as where we stand.
Yes, that is possible. As part of the city council meeting, sometimes we have discussion items and presentations on status updates. We can definitely fit that into our meetings.
Thank you. If the rest of the commissioners would like to have that as well, then. All right, thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Now, if there's no objection by the members, I will now adjourn the regular planning commission meeting at 6:33 p.m. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.